Okay, listen up. We are live, streaming all around the world right now. Say hi to you listening in the US. Not really. Thank you, everybody, for making an effort to join us at Funding Circle's office this evening. My name's James Skee. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Confidence. Sales Confidence is essentially the largest network of sales people and sales leaders in the UK. We've been going for about 5 years now, and we also have a membership subscription to help you up-level and develop yourself. We'll share some more information about that at the end. Just a quick raise of hands. How many of you been to a Sales Confidence event before? Welcome back. Put your hand up if you haven't been before. This is your first event. Welcome. All right, good stuff. Exciting. So thank you very much for coming to this particular event. Just to give you a bit of background, guess why, as a male, have I put on a Women in Sales event? If I'm very honest with you, I had no interest in kind of promoting women or diversity, anyone beyond myself, up until a few years ago. And that changed when I joined LinkedIn. So I spent a few years working for LinkedIn, which is considered a extremely kind of open-minded environment. And it was at LinkedIn I kind of really understood the power of diversity, inclusion and belonging. And partly for me personally, kind of my difference is I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is a mood disorder. So I have a kind of mental health condition you can't see, but obviously I've lived with those challenges and learned to overcome them. So I believe that all of us are unique individuals. We all come in all shapes and sizes. We've all got different hair colour, and of course, we here tonight are representing women. And in the sales industry, it's just very obvious, particularly when you get to the senior executive level, there's a lot less women in those positions. So a couple of years ago, actually speaking with a few of my colleagues in Advocate, is like, James, you know, you put on these community events, but what are you doing to create a pathway for more women leaders so that you can actually rise to the top and have more influence? And that's kind of really what this is about. If you can connect with people here that want to support you in your career, it's going to allow you to kind of create those opportunities going forward. So that's really the motivation for having a Women in Sales themed event. Now, of course, the doors are not closed to men. We've got advocates in the room, and we have, yes, got women-only speakers, but really this is just about advocating for whatever your difference is, right? And that's just the point I want to get across. Now, the format of this evening is we've got 5 speakers. They each get 7 or so minutes to talk, to share their story, share their experiences, give you some insights, give you some nuggets. Then there'll be a Q&A, and then I can share with you how you can get involved in our membership and the women's network that we've got. Now, quite simply, we wouldn't be able to do this event this evening without the help of an advocate. So I'm really grateful, and I'd like you to give a big round of applause in a moment for Charlene, who is the Senior Talent Acquisition Partner at Funding Circle. I basically put out a notification 3 months ago saying, putting on a Women in Sales event, need a super host. And she put her hand up, so I'm really grateful for her support this evening. She's been responsible for recruitment, partnership, sales, and events at multiple SaaS companies up until her point of joining Funding Circle. She's an advocate for women at Funding Circle, and also supporting diversity and inclusion across building this employer brand for the commercial team. So give a big round of applause for Charlene. You're up.
Thank you, James. Wow, there are a lot of people here. Thank you all for coming and welcome to Funding Circle. I hope you found it okay. So a bit about me. Predominantly, most of my career has actually been spent in sales. Whilst I am in talent acquisition at the moment and doing the recruitment for Funding Circle and predominantly our sales team, I spent a big chunk of my career in 360 recruitment, as James said, partnership sales, and then working for a SaaS company in relationships. And something that I find is actually a lot of the skills that women have actually lend really well to the sales role, and we should definitely be in it and doing it a lot more. So for me, this was like the perfect event for us to be hosting, and something that I'm super proud of, to see so many women here that are absolutely killing it. Let's make sure we're putting ourselves on the map and getting that bank, get that bag, girls. So yeah, it was really important for me to host it here, make sure that you guys can see what we're about as well. We are actively hiring. James has said that I'm allowed to say that. So we are hiring quite a bit across Funding Circle. If you don't know who we are a lending platform for small businesses. So it's all about kind of giving back and supporting the economy and helping small businesses grow, which are a big part of what the economy needs. So if you are looking for a new role, please do feel free to grab me. There's a few of the guys all around, and obviously you've got Tia here as well, so feel free to grab us at any point. But yeah, I hope you really enjoy this event. There's some fabulous talks coming up, and there's definitely something that somebody from all stages and all parts of the sales function can actually take from these events. So yeah, enjoy it, soak it up, and we hope you have a good night. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So we've got Charlotte Wright, who's Head of Business Development from BQI. Charlotte took the leap into leadership earlier this year, joining as their Head of Business Development. She started her career in retail promotions at Woucher, where she was promoted twice before taking on roles at Dex, Cloud Kitchens, Released and MyTraffic. She now has more than 7 years experience in sales, and Charlotte's held roles in prop tech, fintech and now construction tech. So Charlotte, would you like to join us?
Brilliant. First of all, thank you, Charlene and James, for a wonderful introduction, and thank you all for joining us here tonight. I'm very happy to be going first because we've got some fantastic speakers coming up, so I'll be sitting back and watching those shortly. But first, I'd like to share a little bit about my experience in sales, and particularly why I think it's so important to have diverse sales teams. So to recap a little bit, I am Charlotte. I'm the head of BQI, head of business development at BQI, and I have worked across a variety of different techs, which I feel very lucky to have done. I'm very honoured that I've had different industries, different stages of growth in terms of the business, and different teams and mentors as well. And it's made me feel like I know a lot about what works and maybe what doesn't work so well, and that's something that plays a big part of my role day to day. I always reflect on those previous experiences, and it was no different when trying to think of a topic to talk about today. And I often remember a phrase that I heard in one of my very first sales interviews. So going back not long, a little bit long. And I was firing off applications fresh out of uni and got invited to a grad day. And I thought, oh, this is really fun. This is so easy. You just sat around a table in a group. We're chatting about our experience, our ambitions. And halfway through the day, they cut the group. And I thought, well, I'm still here, so I'm definitely nailing this. The next stage was a bit more of a traditional interview. And it was a panel of 3 of them and just us as individuals. More of a one-on-one kind of thing, and the conversation was flowing. I was gelling really well with them, and I thought, yeah, I've nailed it. I've got the job. So I went home, and then the rejection came, and the feedback was that I seemed really great. I had some relevant experience. I'd fit in really well with the team, but I seemed too nice for sales. And I thought, what does that mean? Too nice for sales. And I was really frustrated with that, and I channeled that frustration into getting a new role. And I went straight to their biggest competitor, and I said, "Hi, I'd like to interview." And I interviewed, and I told them where else I'd been interviewing. I forgot to mention that I'd been rejected, and said that I was still deciding, and I was so passionate about daily deals. And they snapped me up. I mean, I must have seemed more focused in that interview, but I don't think I was less nice. But I took that role, and I had my first 2.5 years of my sales career there, which I'm very grateful for. That phrase has stayed on my mind ever since. And at first, I was really determined to prove them wrong. I'm not too nice. And throughout my career, that determination has stayed, but the concept has changed a little bit. I am nice, but the idea that someone's too nice for sales just isn't true. I went into sales with some understanding of the industry. My dad, he actually left school at 16 and fixed fax machines throughout the city. There, he networked his way up the corporate ladder into a flourishing career in tech sales. Admittedly, it was hardware, not software, but that was the SaaS of his generation. And he's always taught me that, yes, it's really hard to do sales, but it ultimately comes down to relationship management. Does your client like you? Do they like you enough to buy from you not just once, but will they come back and buy again? And will they buy from you even when you go to a different business? Now, for my dad, when he stepped into a boardroom, he felt like the odd one out. For him, it was because he came from a different background and didn't have the same education level as those that he was competing with and selling to. So in my childhood, it was really important to him to give me that level of education that he thought would put me on a level playing field. I'm entirely grateful for that. However, what he didn't foresee is that when I enter a boardroom, I'm often the only woman. I'm often the only queer person there. And so I still have that element of being the only one. Now, everyone in this room will relate to that. We are all different in different ways, and our differences are not equal. I'm still very privileged in what I do, but I still felt like I wasn't fitting into the status quo, or I was struggling to reach that. My sales technique and style has always been different to members of my team, and I'm not quite saying that women all sell in one way and men all sell in the other, but in my experience, there tended to be some generalization there. Now, when we think of the traditional idea of sales, it is probably a man in a suit, very loudly pitching and aggressively negotiating and closing business over a pint in the pub. What we now know is that the magic recipe is actually easier than that. You just have to ask the right questions and really listen to the answers. So how do I get my customers to open up to me about their challenges and their objectives? Well, I do it by being nice. It's my niceness that gets me into those rooms. It's my niceness that keeps me on their mind when maybe the time wasn't quite right, but they'll come back when it is. And it's how I close deals, and it's how I close repeat business. The rooms that we are selling to, the customers we have, they are changing. And to not have a diverse team is detrimental to your business. I have had experiences where some of my clients probably do benefit from a different sales style. Unfortunately, they will listen to a man more or somebody that's older, and I'll pass them to another colleague. But for every time that's happened, there's been 2 more instances where actually some account that my team is struggling with has been passed to me, and my approach has worked. What I want to say is that our differences are what make us important and valuable as salespeople. If you come from different gender identities, different ethnic backgrounds, different class, different education levels, that's what will make your style yours. Whether you approach sales with niceness or different language styles or technical knowledge, that's what is going to make you stand out. Anything that makes you feel different should also make you feel empowered, and you shouldn't hold back from opportunities because of that. So if you're at the point in your career, or when you reach the point in your career where you can influence it, hiring teams, remember that and push for diversity. And perhaps on a more important note, where you are now personally, remember your USP. Your difference is what makes you valuable. If you feel like you're the only one in the room, make the most of that, embrace it. And just remember that overall in the coming years, that room will change and you won't be the only one there anymore. Thank you.
Great job. It's really not easy opening up an event like this, so well done. Congratulations. Okay, our next speaker up is Tia Crabtree. And Tia is the Senior Sales Manager at Funding Circle. Her talk is going to be Leading with Laughter. And Tia currently manages the marketplace sales team at Funding Circle, consisting of 14 account managers and 3 managers. She's been with Funding Circle for 4 years, joining as a relationship manager back in 2019 on the direct side of the business, moving over to marketplace during COVID, where she's progressed into senior management. She actually has a background in banking with NatWest and RBS. I'm super looking forward to this talk. Big round of applause for Tia.
Sorry, I definitely stood up a little bit premature there. Apologies. So, leading with laughter. I I'm not aiming to make you laugh, but if I do, it's a bonus. So here we go. So as James said, I'm Tia. I work at Funding Circle, actively hiring. If you like what you see, come talk to me after or send me a CV on LinkedIn. So I'm going to go kind of right back to basics. I'm going to talk about my kind of journey, where I've been, where I've worked, some of the things I've experienced, but also some of the things that I've done to kind of overcome this. So growing up, I grew up in an all-female household, went to an all-girls school, life was bliss. Didn't go to university, wasn't for me. I was actually really deprioritising school because I didn't go to university. I was one of 2 in the year that didn't. The other girl joined the military. I, according to my teachers, went and did an apprenticeship in carpentry. No idea where they got that, but it was in my yearbook. Honestly, it's a mystery to this day. I did go to art college, kind of links. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Went and worked at Asda for a year. Full male team, learnt a lot of resilience, learnt a lot about football, being surrounded by guys every day. But I do genuinely recommend everyone does a stint in retail because it's very humbling. A few nods around the room. So at 18, I realised, right, I need to actually go and find what I want to do. And I was lucky enough to get an apprenticeship working at NatWest in corporate and commercial banking. Don't know if we've got any people past or present that worked at NatWest. But yeah, bank was great. Fast forward 5 years, I came to Funding Circle and I was accepted for who I was, who turned up on that day. They didn't care where I came from, what my education was. They liked me for me, which was really, really refreshing. As James said, I joined as a senior account manager or a relationship manager back then and progressed into management, something I've always wanted to do. And I did just want to say, girls, like, if you are in sales at the minute and you feel your only path is to management, that's not true. Like, you can stay in sales doing what you're doing. You don't have to go to management. Like, it does feel very linear and like you have no other choice, but don't do management if it's not for you, because I've seen a few people do that and it's like career suicide right there. So just do what you're good at and you will always excel. So if you don't take anything else away from this, take that away. Again, I work in a predominantly male environment, like that's sales. I'm sure you can all kind of agree in some sense there. My team is mainly male. There's about 5 of them sat at the back. They're an absolutely amazing bunch to manage. We have loads and loads of fun. I genuinely see them as like a group of best mates. They're absolutely fantastic. But again, like it's an environment where I'm the odd one out. And I guess what they definitely won't know is that at times I'm quite frankly petrified of standing in front of them and talking because I'm the only female in the room. And it's really, really difficult sometimes to come across as this super confident, I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm doing, when inside I feel that big. So yeah, you probably don't know that, guys, so go easy on me next time. But yeah, I quickly recognised that, like, oh my God, I can't go through my career like this. I need to do something about it. So spoke to a few people above me, a few people kind of outside of work. What do I do? Podcasts, read a book. Who here has read a managing sales book from start to finish? No. You will still be great salespeople. If you've read them, good for you, because I prefer a novel. But yeah, everyone just said the same thing. Oh, have you tried listening to this? Have you tried doing this? I was like, no, I really haven't. Anyway, one day I bit the bullet and I put a podcast on. I couldn't tell you who it was, what they were saying, but one thing really resonated with me. It was a woman, she'd lacked in confidence, and she said, one thing I did was I did a stand-up comedy course. I was like, genius. Like, why do more people not do that? So I went on the internet, found a stand-up comedy course in Leeds. I'm not from down here, unless you've already realised. And I booked it there and then. The best money I have ever spent. It was honestly life-changing. I went into a room of about 20 people that I've never met before, 6-week course, and at the end of it I did like a 5-minute stand-up set, and I made every single one of those people in that room laugh, and that was the best feeling in the world. But like, I took so much away from that. I took away how to think on the spot. I took away how to engage an audience. I took away confidence, how to hold a microphone. Like, so many people don't realise if you hold the microphone here, no one can hear you. But, like, you hold it to your chin, it works. Magic. But honestly, one tip, go do a stand-up comedy course. I'm not funny. Like, I'm not a funny person. Some people might find me funny, but I'm not funny by trade. But anyone can be funny if they want to be. Like, not everyone can be the smartest in the room. Not everyone has the ability to get a first-class degree. Not everyone can be the best salesperson, but everyone can be funny if they want to be. So just one thing I want to kind of say is just be true to who you are. Don't be afraid to push yourself out of the box and do something a little bit different. And for me, like, if you are having fun at work and if you are creating a really fun environment and you enjoy being around the people that you are around, you'll always be successful, because that's the main thing, just having fun.
Amazing. Thank you, Tia. You definitely made me laugh, so, that's one win that you can take away for tonight. But yeah, thank you for that. So our next speaker tonight is Daniela Niarco, who is the strategic sales lead at Canva, and her talk is Elevating Sales Through the Art of Visual Storytelling. It's okay. Daniela is a highly accomplished sales professional. She has over 10 years experience in the tech industry. She has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills through leading and building international teams and fostering strategic partnerships. She's known very much for her expertise in implementing both direct and indirect sales strategies, resulting in significant business growth and success, and is an advocate for women in tech and business. So now you can come up, Daniela.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Good. My name is Daniela Niarco, as said, and I am the strategic sales lead at Canva. And I strongly believe in order to become the best version of yourself, you focus on two things, right? And we just heard all these amazing talks. One thing is to work on your personal development, your character, your confidence. And then the other thing is, of course, to have the right tools in place. And I think if you combine the two, right, you truly make an impact. And guess what? You can also be very, very unique. So that's why I am speaking about a topic that is very, very dear to me, elevating sales through the art of visual storytelling, right? So, we are all in sales, I guess, right? We all use social media, so it's something that we're very much familiar with. But before we jump in, let me ask you a question. So how many of you have a social media account or use visual storytelling? Just raise your hand. So it's pretty much everyone. How many of you are in sales? SDR, how many of you? Pretty much everyone, perfect. And I mean, as Tia said, everybody can be funny, right? And how many of you have used visual storytelling in their sales cycle? Okay, a few hands, good, proud of you. But the question is, why don't we all use it, right? Because you just confirmed we all have social media, we all use visual storytelling, and we're all in sales. But before we jump in, I want to show you a really quick video so that you can understand why visual storytelling has become so important. Oh, sound? Is it coming through?
In a world that never stops, how do you stay on top? As this mind-bending, ever-pending chase of what's trending feels never-ending, how do you mark the end of an era in order to own what's next, what's now, what's new? Perhaps you start by asking yourself, what makes you, you? Then take that authentic you and enhance the resolution. Help the scale of you grow up so that the youiest version of you stands out whenever you show up. For this is the era of you, era of new, era of we empowering what creatives do.
Right. Exactly. So I think what the video highlights really, really well is that it's a new era, right? The way we communicate nowadays has completely changed. And it's also a good time for us to be very much unique and for every single personality and character to shine. So I think it's more, I mean, it's very much, clear to say that visual communication is more important than it was ever before. Although it's always been a big part in human society and its development, right? Like even if we go back thousands of years, hundreds of years, ancient Egyptians, they used symbols and all sorts of, right? And it really helped them to have a more cohesive culture, but also to transmit ideas. And then fast forward now, or maybe perhaps 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was predominantly word-based, which was fine, by the way. But I'm sure some of you remember in times of newspapers, right? Did anyone ever read a newspaper from page 1 to all the way to the end? Exactly. No, we don't do that. So because it would focus or target a very specific group, right? So if you're interested in politics, you go to politics, financials, and so on. It's just because it was so much information that it's almost impossible for you to read everything. So that's why I guess it's not a surprise that visual content is 40 times more likely to be shared and to be remembered, right? And that's a very crucial number. And that's, by the way, not only in your personal sort of social media, but also think about your prospects, right? Think about your proposals, presentations, the way we interact with our customers. So they're more likely to remember information when it's visual. And there's even more stats, 91% are actually saying that, well, we need visuals, or we prefer visuals over text. And 65% of the population is saying, we are visual learners. You need to give me visuals, otherwise I can't process quickly enough, I cannot make decisions, or at least it will influence my decision, right? And your human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text, and 90% of information transmitted to your brain is actually visual. So even if I give you something text-based, you would always try to turn it into an image so that you can digest it in a better way, right? And visuals have been found to improve learning by 400%. So since we know all these stats and we know actually what the population wants from us, why don't we give them what they want, right? And when we've truly understood that, I think as salespeople as well, we can connect with our customers and our prospects on a much, much deeper level. But also people buy from people, right? They want to be understood, and that's sort of what they like. As Charlotte said, they like our characters and our personalities and so on. So I want to talk to you about some key pillars and why visual storytelling will impact your sales performance if you use it, because it's fun to use, we all love it, right? And we like interacting with it. And also the way you have to see attention, right? Our attention span has become very, very short, right? So you really have to see attention as a commodity nowadays, and then you can take visual storytelling as a currency. Right? So your prospects, your customers, they will get a lot of different emails, people trying to outbound, every SDR and all sorts of, and then also internal communication. So it's really important to keep them engaged. And when you keep them engaged, you can also increase urgency, especially we all have targets, right? So that we need to hit every single quarter. So that's one thing that's really important. And then once that's done, you can also enhance communication, right? So think about, or every salesperson should really be able to communicate their value proposition in the most effective way, right? And why don't we use visual storytelling to do so? And then, of course, once that's done, once you create memorable presentations or proposals, you also have improved retention, which then again will trigger an emotional connection. Beautiful thing about visual storytelling actually is that it's not only connecting to your emotional side of the brain, but actually also your logical side, right? Again, we merge those two together and then we have a better impact, and it's a very true and meaningful relationship that we're actually creating. And by the way, that's not only in our professions, that could be used anywhere, right? Also in our day-to-day lives, of course. And one thing that's probably most important for me is be one step ahead, right? Be one step ahead and also be unique. That's really a way how you can shine. Some are introverts, some are extroverts, but guess what? If you include visual storytelling in your sales pitch, you just shine in your own way, and it's going to be perfect. It's going to be good. And then once that's done, you also have a lot more increased, or maybe perhaps your customers understand you a lot better, right? So the way I would like you to see it, I really would like you to use visual design at any time in your sales cycle. And it should really be an end-to-end experience for your customer. It should almost be like a journey, right? So from, again, if there's SDRs here and so on, so when you prospect, instead of just sending a long email, for example, right, use visuals, charts, percentages, just as I did. If all you remember today is 40%, that's fine, right? Because that's what we want, essentially. And then also when it comes to pitching, do we always have to use a deep dive demo, for example, or do we have the ability to pitch by using visuals and land a message? And then when it goes into your demos, it's exactly the same. So instead of just having, these really heavy demos, sometimes we have multiple stakeholders involved. They might not want to see a demo. For example, maybe perhaps you can keep it a bit more dynamic so that you land your message much, much better. And then all the way to your proposals, that's my favorite, because a lot of customers, they tell us, well, most salespeople that we're interacting with, they have very traditional sales methods, right? So they use Excel. We don't even understand what they send us. We have to set up 5 meetings because I don't actually know what I'm buying. So why not sending a proposal that's visually appealing, right? Guess what? The more appealing it is, the better they understand, the closer you can, or the faster you can close the deal. And that's essentially what we want to do. And then that's not where it stops. I know we all like signing deals and then we just kind of leave them somewhere, right? But and then onto the next one. But actually, for customer success managers, account managers, and so on, onboarding as well, right? Instead of sending them pages of text and just go and learn, right? Keeping it interactive, maybe having a whiteboard session, and then when it comes to retention, you will have a much, much better outcome. So I think it's very much fair to say that standing out in this visual economy is absolutely key, and that's what our customers want. That's how we want to be communicated with as well. So why not apply it? Especially it's something that we enjoy very, very much. And I hope that you all, just be inspirational in everything that you do. I think it's really important. Be appealing, and most importantly, I'm sure all of you have a compelling message to share. So why not do that? And once that's done, I hope you can all see how you can make an impact with your uniqueness and visual storytelling. Thank you very much.
Good job. Lots of value there. So we're up to our next speaker, or speakers, in fact. This is actually a rare treat. We've only once before had a double act, and we've got a double act tonight, so I'm excited about it. We've got Caitlin Tomlinson and Emma Mallet. They met working together at a company called Air Marketing. Air Marketing is the leading outsourced sales and marketing agency in the UK. The sales director Marco's at the back, and they're also a sponsor of Sales Confidence. Caitlin and Emma are going to be talking about hiring potential for potential and personality over experience. They're both motivated to kind of talk about breaking the gender bias in sales hiring, talking about collaboration, not competition, and moving past that imposter syndrome that exists in all of us at some level. Caitlin actually spoke at a Sales Confidence event a few months ago, and she was straight out of school, straight into sales at 18. And how old are you now? 19! So, big kudos for her being up on stage. And Emma is now got her own business, and she's supporting people in their early careers. And so, can we have a big round of applause for Caitlin and Emma, please? I'll give you another one. Up on the stage.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Emma.
So it was just over a year ago that I started my sales career at Air Marketing, where I was a BDE doing business for our clients. Now, as James said, I see some friendly faces here from 6 months ago when I was last talking about how I believed knowing nothing about sales helped me become successful in my first couple of months. This was due to just being able to be my authentic self when talking to prospects. 6 months on, I want to talk about the power of potential and how we can debunk the stereotypes of how a salesperson should look or act or behave in any way. So why me? that's a question we probably all asked ourselves at some point. But in this light, it was a good one, because I asked myself that when I was promoted to an SDR from a BDE, as opposed to my colleagues who had had so much more experience than me. And luckily for me, it is because I believe in the power of potential and personality as well, with these 3 main points. The first being adaptability. So the sales environment can change rapidly, all the time, very quickly, especially with technology. But to have an adaptable and flexible mindset allows you to embrace change instead of resisting it. And also, if you're training somebody who knows absolutely nothing about a product, that's going to be so much better than training someone with the wrong idea of what a product is, or no knowledge, or the wrong knowledge. The second is motivation and drive. So if confidence, positivity, and resilience come easy to you in everyday life, then that's all you need to start your sales career in a junior level role. Resilience doesn't come from experience during the sales role. We all deal with rejection in day-to-day life. So if you take that to your career, that's the experience that you need. The last is learning and development. So this is going to take your organisation investing in time and training for you, but it will create a cycle where you're training up high value individuals to be able to have the potential, the skill set and the mindset to be able to do leadership roles within the business, which is a win-win for everyone.
And following on from Caitlin speaking about the power of potential, I have only recently started my career in sales, and I've already found that so many times people try to put me and my potential in a box, and they've made me feel silly for wanting to aim to be a sales director and also have my own businesses, or be serious about my sales career but also want to give lots of my time to volunteering roles. So I've lost a lot of confidence. I've been made to feel very silly for wanting to have lots of ambitions in my career. And that's a big problem for women in the sales industry, because I find that when I see my male peers say the same ambitions for their careers, they're celebrated for being ambitious, whereas I'm made to feel silly. So how do we get rid of this box that people put us in and our potential? And if there's one thing I can ask of you today, it's that the next time that somebody makes you feel this way, you ask them why they're saying this to you, and more specifically, why they're saying this to you as a woman in the sales industry. And then go and do everything that you want to do, and do that with confidence, and then go and share that with the world, so that people like Caitlin and myself have examples to learn from. But that is a lot easier said than done. My sales career has moved very fast and more quickly than I was expecting. And with that comes our good old friend imposter syndrome. I have felt underqualified, inexperienced, too young, not good enough so many times already in my career. Please raise your hand if any of you here have felt imposter syndrome in your career or your job role. Yeah, pretty much everyone. So that just goes to show, especially for women in the sales industry, that this is very common. And I'm lucky enough that in my sales roles I've been supported, that I've never been made to feel that this is actually true. So why do I still find myself stopping myself from speaking up in boardrooms or giving my opinions to decision makers? I've done more reading into this, and I found a study of 4,000 people, and 53% of women said that they felt unqualified and self-doubt. And women are most likely to feel imposter syndrome in their job roles at 73%. This is ridiculous. And how can we break through this imposter syndrome that we feel as women in the sales industry? I'm still learning this at the moment. It's partly why I'm stood up here. But I have found so far that I've pushed myself to do things which I've not felt qualified to do, and I've been putting off until I felt ready. And I've since found that actually I never had to feel ready. I had to just believe I was ready. And as women, we can support our colleagues to push through imposter syndrome by recognizing when this is happening to them and give them the power of self-belief over self-doubt.
And I believe that when you give people this power of self-belief over self-doubt, amazing things can happen in sales teams. And I think that collaboration is as valuable as competition in sales teams. And Caitlin and I, we competed, but we also collaborated together and supported one another. And I think that had we not collaborated and supported each other, we wouldn't be stood here together today. And we were also able to maintain a 100% attendance, 100% proposal rate together as a team and as individuals. And the last thing that I've learned in my career so far is there is a severe lack of women in decision maker roles within the sales industry. And when Caitlin and I were working on cadences, contacting decision makers in IT, tech and SaaS roles, we would go days without speaking to a woman. We thought this was funny at first, and then we realised we need to change this. So how do I think that we can get more women into the industry? I believe that if we can break through the boxes that we are put in and our potential is put into, and we can break through imposter syndrome, we can help support each other and collaborate with each other. And then hopefully we will see more women in sales roles and therefore more decision-making roles within the sales industry.
Yeah, and leading on from that, I won't mind saying that I was apprehensive about doing sales as a young woman straight from college, as quite often, I think the first would be stereotypes. The stereotype that maybe we're not assertive enough, is that's just not a trait that's encouraged in women, assertiveness. And I was even told by a colleague who will remain nameless, that I'd be too soft for sales, and it just wouldn't work for me. But I think that drove me more. People confuse assertiveness with aggression, but I think they only confuse that when it comes from a woman. They don't confuse it when it comes from a man. The other is probably education. Throughout my whole life in education, not one student or teacher or lecturer ever discussed the possibility of sales as an actual career. Why is this? Is it the lack of understanding? Is it because you won't be successful? Is it because they think kids will find it boring? I don't know, but everyone has their own path into sales. I'm sure some of you probably accidentally fell into it, and some of you planned to. Some of you went to uni, some of you didn't. Emma, she's a great friend, colleague, and amazing salesperson. She went to uni, that was right for her, wasn't right for me. I can remember sitting with a lecturer, she was really pushing for me to go to uni, but I just could not think of what 3 years of uni, career-wise, would do for me that 3 years of just being out there and getting it done wouldn't. So I asked her that question, she didn't have an answer, so I went and just got straight to it. But yeah, life isn't a one-size-fits-all sort of thing, not your career, not your personal life, nothing. So we have a saying at Air Marketing, which is to be brave and sell more. But for tonight, our advice to you is to be brave.
And be yourself.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, girls. I know I definitely took a lot away from that, and definitely someone who suffers from the old imposter syndrome. So yeah, even at almost 36, it never goes away. But events like this can definitely help with that. So yeah, thank you for that. Right, our final speaker for tonight is Caroline McChrystal, who works in partnerships at TransUnion. And her title is Coming Last. Not intentional that she is our final speaker. But she is a former elite athlete and now Ironman triathlete, and then moved into the corporate world 6 years ago as an account manager at Experian. She then moved on to customer verification consultancy GBG before joining TransUnion in her current role last year. She's been titled the European Women in Sales Awards as the most distinguished saleswoman in Europe, the Middle East and Africa. She is also, just to wrap this up nicely, a co-founder, co-owner, director and executive producer of multiple businesses, but her favourite role is mum to her 13-year-old dog, Ellie. So on that note, Caroline, come on.
Hi, everyone. So, a quick question for everyone. Who is in their Q4 right now? We've got lots of hands ups tonight, so up we go. I feel really guilty speaking tonight, actually. I feel like it's Q4. I should give this 7 minutes back to everyone. I'm sure you got things to do. Just go recoup, breathe. You know, Q4 is hard. And it's tough out there at the moment, especially when sometimes it can feel like everyone is doing better than you. So when I first spoke to James and had to think about what I wanted to talk about tonight, you've heard my introduction. Should I talk about being an elite athlete and that transition into the corporate world? What about the story of being a little girl from Northern Ireland with no opportunity and no prospects, but going on to be named the most distinguished saleswoman in Europe, Middle East, and Africa? That is such a mouthful. You've heard the list of accolades there as well, director, co-founder, etc., etc. But those are all talking about successes. And you know, sometimes conferences, keynotes, they can give this image of perfection. It can be really glossy and glamorous, especially whenever it's a women in sales event. But there's something we need to talk about, and that is failure. Would you believe that after winning the Women in Sales Awards, my first interview, I didn't get the job because after a 15-minute interview, they said I wouldn't be any good at sales. What about as a former national champion? Every single Wednesday night, I go to a running club and I come last. We need to talk about failure. I've got my notes up here in case I fail tonight, by the way. That's what I'm looking at. You know, in sales, success and failure, it's pretty black and white actually, isn't it? You've got 3 numbers. You've got your target, you've got the result, and you've got the gap in between. And that number is what will define whether you are successful or whether you are a failure. That is the measure of you by those on high. In sales, it's relentless. There is always another target. There's always another quarter. There's always another H2. There's always another free YP. It is non-stop. You can go from golden girl to pip in a matter of days, in a matter of numbers in this game. You can close a deal on the last day of Q4 and be the hero. The very next day it's Q1 and that slate is wiped clean. Your success in sales is not infinite, but your failures aren't either. It works both ways, thankfully. Just a little side tangent. If you are going through a season of failure right now, please don't give up. There's something I've always been taught, and it's when you hit rock bottom, stop for a minute, just gather yourself, because there's only one direction to go, and that's up. But it's hard. We're salespeople, aren't we? We know how to be positive, and when we're not positive, we can fake it. We know that it's not just motivation we need. We know it's discipline as well. But I tell you what's really hard when people around you are saying that it's still not good enough. Writing that strategy is not the same as hitting that number. Doing that presentation isn't hitting the number. That pitch isn't hitting a number. The emails, the phone calls, the late nights, the standing on stage is not the same as hitting that number. And if you don't hit the number, failure. We've become hyper-fixated on perfectionism. And in job interviews, I'm sure everyone here has said at one point earlier in their career that they're a perfectionist. But perfectionism does not come from this deep-rooted love of being meticulous and getting things right. It comes from a fear of disappointing people. It comes from a fear of getting it wrong, of making a mistake. It comes from a fear of failure. You know, as human beings, we are programmed to avoid failure. Coming last in nature can sometimes risk survival. But we're also programmed to evolve. And to evolve, you need failure. And to evolve, you need learning. We've become, as we've got older, more and more afraid of being a beginner. When I was a baby and I was learning how to walk, every time I tried to stand up, I'd fall down. Every time we tried to take a step, we'd wobble and we'd crash to the floor. Did I say to myself, or more babble to myself if I was a baby, I wasn't talking to myself, did I say, I'm going to stop now because I'm failing? No, I got up and I walked and I ran, and now I can walk in stilettos across the stage. You're not starting from scratch every time you have to start again. You're starting from experience every time you try. I heard a saying, actually, it's failure is delay, not defeat. It's a temporary detour, not a dead-end street. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to use that. But actually now, thinking about it and knowing what I know, I disagree with it. It's not a delay. It's not a detour. You are exactly where you are supposed to be right now. Especially as women, we have this timeline set out ahead of us that we're supposed to meet. It's false. It's not true. What is happening is exactly what is supposed to be happening. And that idea in your head of where you're supposed to be right now, it doesn't exist, and it will never happen without the failure that you're experiencing throughout it. So tonight, it's Wednesday night, it's a Run Club night, and someone else tonight is coming last because I'm not there. Someone else is thinking to themselves that they're the slowest, everyone else is better than them, and they're a failure. But they're only the slowest because I'm not there. They're a failure at something other people are not even attempting to achieve. I did Paris Marathon back in April, and for many reasons, I'm going to disclose what I came, and I'm really calling myself out now. I came 49,814th out of 50,870. I pretty much came last. Thank you. But actually, I'm part of that 1% of the globe that will ever do a marathon. And to me, that is a win. And I'm taking what I learned and applying it. And I've got Valencia in 5.5 weeks, and do not see that as overcoming failure. See that as, I've got something loose in my head for that one. But you know, it is all about mindset. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, your head hits that pillow. Dream your dreams all you want, but when you wake, your actions, reactions, your emotions, your feelings, everything you do is all about attitude. And that doesn't mean being positive all the time. Being okay with failure is not the same as settling in comfort and not trying. It's two very different things. And failure can defeat you if you let it. But it can also really inspire you if you allow it to. So don't let it own you, and do not be afraid of it. So I'll leave you with one thought tonight. Fear less about failure. Don't be fearless about failure. It's Q4. We got targets to hit. But fear less. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. That was Incredible. Thank you. Super motivated after that. Can I have all the speakers now back up on the stage? We're going to have a bit of a Q&A session, so get thinking about if there's anything you want to ask our incredible panellists. Come on up. I do not. Jesus, wet. Oh my gosh. Careful. It's okay.
I realised you were so close.
It's okay. We get health insurance at Funding Circle, so yeah, it's all good. Okay, well, look, I'm sure you can all agree that was absolutely incredible. And yeah, thank you all for those incredible talks. I've taken heaps away myself. Actually, one thing I did want to ask straight away, Caroline, was just off the back of what you said, is that, as you said, there are probably a number of people in this room who are currently or who have kind of struggled in their sales career and maybe finding things a bit difficult. What would be your tips for trying to get back off of that kind of road and get back into a more positive place? And again, if anyone else has anything, please share.
I think we've kind of got to a point where we assume that failure is something to be overcome. And it's not. Like I said in my talk to you all, it's something that is part of that process and something that happens, and it's something that you learn a lot from. And so my advice is really don't have, what would be the word? Don't catastrophize failure. I know in sales it can mean as extreme as losing your job, but there'll be another job after that. Okay, it's not the end of the world. So my advice is don't catastrophize, even if it feels like the worst possible outcome.
Yeah. Also, I think one thing is you have to be really careful in how you view failure, because failure can be absolutely crippling, and it actually can stop you from moving forward, I guess, and also from trying. Because I am actually a perfectionist, to Caroline's point. And often I wouldn't even start something because I'm scared to fail, right? I'm sure a lot of us have been here. So I think, first of all, it's just the way you view failure. Failure is part of life. And most importantly, the only thing that you need to consider is you learn something from your failure. And then you leave it behind and you move on. So it's not there for you to dwell on it, but it's, right, just try to learn from the situation and you make it better in your future. So don't dwell on your past, I guess. And failure is usually in the past once it happens.
Something else that I wanted to ask is something that Kate and Emma actually touched upon, which is there aren't enough women kind of in the senior leadership field or in senior sales, whether that's as an IC or as a manager. For those of you that have kind of started to progress, what would be your tips for people in the room who do want to get to a more kind of senior space in the sales role, sales director? What advice would you have for them to get there, whether it's a manager or an IC?
I would just say that it's really important to put yourself in the room for those opportunities. I think that a lot of us has touched upon it, that as women, there's imposter syndrome, there's not seeing yourself in those roles and finding it hard to visualize yourself. And that goes for not just women, but for anyone that looks different or feels different. Put yourself forward, because it may not just happen without you trying. You might have to be that person that you see in order for future generations to see you and go for it. So it's not just having the confidence, it's almost having the overconfidence. If you feel underqualified, doesn't matter. Someone else underqualified's applying and they're probably going to get it. So just go for it.
I was going to say pretty much that, but I would literally just say just go for it. Like, what is the worst that can happen? You are not going to lose your job for interviewing for another role, or if you apply at another business and you really royally mess up, you never have to see them again. So honestly, just go for it. Like, throw your hat in the ring, because unless you try, you're never ever going to get it. I never in a million years thought I would get my role. And I, disclaimer, probably shouldn't have. I was literally the only one left, but I've proved that I can do it, because they wouldn't have passed me on my probation if I couldn't. So you've just got to put yourself out there.
I've come up with a little phrase that I say to myself if I ever feel like the imposter syndrome is really strong, or I don't feel good enough to be doing something, and that's do it for her. And whether that her means to you 5 months ago, 5 years ago, or that's your sister or your mum, or that her is someone that doesn't have the ability or the access or the opportunities to be able to do what you can do it for her. And I found that has driven me quite far so far.
Amazing. So we're going to open up questions to the floor. So does anyone have a question? There we go. Straight up.
Thanks very much. That was a really great panel. Learned so much. Thanks, ladies. Really liked Emma and Caitlin's points, and I thought I was going to ask a question about imposter syndrome, but I think actually a really important question for all of us in the room is how do we help promote women to get into sales careers? Because we can't be it if we don't see it. So, what would each of you say can we all individually do?
Yeah, so I think for me, to my education point, I think we should just be talking about it as an option, because we all hear about wanting to be a doctor or a teacher or a vet, and that's great, but it's not what everybody wants to be doing. So I think just advertising that it is an option that you don't need to go to uni for, and you can just start up, hit the ground running and go. I think that's definitely important. And I think we can do that by getting women like all of us here today to speak at schools or get out there on LinkedIn and that, yeah.
Just to add to that, I think that's a great point. How many of you have ever walked back into your old school, right? And some of you put your hands up. But, think back to that time at school. There was often no one coming in to talk about sales or business. The type of people that were coming into your schools. Just literally all you have to do is connect to the headmaster or head teacher. They would welcome you for a lunchtime and you'd get to go in there and share your story. You'll feel great about it. Trust me, I've done it. And you will inspire a group of young girls in that room that they could potentially be one like you one day. So it's just a thought.
So this is quite funny actually, because obviously I was like a failure according to school. I actually got called back in to talk to the other failures that didn't want to go to university, to basically explain what life was like without university. And the impact that I had on maybe those 10 girls, was huge. Because they got no support at that school. They didn't know anything other than going to university. So if you do ever get an opportunity like that, really do take it, because even if you help one girl, that's enough for me personally.
Next question.
Hello, I'm Kyra. So this might be a bit of a wild card question as well, and it's honestly, I've been to so many events like this, and I love it, of course. But the one thing that people never talk about, especially in sales and going up into senior management, I'm on a future leadership program, and I would say I'm a confident person. I'm also 6 months pregnant, so that I think is some of the biggest challenges of a woman working in sales. And especially people say, "Oh, you're not going to where are the women?" I'm like, being pregnant in sales, going through pregnancy, working in sales, and then having a child, managing Q1, managing Q4. Oh my God, I can't imagine being in your first trimester in Q4. This is part of the problem. But not the problem, but do you know any women who've gone through that process? Because I have never worked with a woman in 10 years, and I've worked in sales for quite a while. And I'm always the only woman in the room. Do you know anyone who's gone through that process and has successfully managed it? Because it actually, I know, sorry, long question, but it's actually a huge thing. Look at everyone in this room. We're all going to have, well, no, not everyone, but some people choose to have kids, but that's a huge part of life and part of your career. Big question, long question.
Thank you.
So I am kind of in the middle stage of that right now with one of my AEs who is on maternity leave. She's had her baby, and it's a bit of a tricky answer because it's very lucky. But what I found is that the big difference was working for a company that had a female CEO, because she has a completely different outlook on this than anyone else. And, I'm her boss as well, so I have a different outlook on it as well, and the whole process has been managed differently. We've enabled her to set up a pipeline and make it really clear the deals that she thought would possibly close in those first couple months, and they still sit with her. She's got the commission if they've closed, And we are lining things up for her when she comes back and keeping in touch with her, not in a way to give her any pressure to work, but to keep her in tune with what's happening with her clients and her potential customers. It's a bit of a tricky one because really my answer is that we as women should use our power because we make companies a lot of money. So be choosy about where you go to work. Ask those questions. Don't be afraid. If they don't hire you because of that, then they aren't going to treat you well when that happens. So look for female founders, for female CEOs, or just look for companies that have quite a progressive outlook on that. And don't be afraid to ask those questions. Even if it doesn't pertain to you or pertain to you right now, do it for other women.
And also, I know lots of women that have been through that, so connect with me, I can introduce you. A question?
I do have a question, yes. So our office has a global reach. We have offices everywhere. And what we found is our UK team, we have no female leaders. They've tried to build it into our culture recently. But in terms of our US offices, we have so many female leaders, like the whole leadership team is effectively women. Do you think it's like a UK thing or a global thing? Thank you.
Any responses?
No, you go.
Well, effectively, what I think it's a culture thing, but I don't think on a country level, but on a business level, right? Because obviously the US they have a different management, and your UK team probably has a different management. So I think you probably need to think about what's the core of our culture here and what are we promoting, right? Because it might just be that they have people in the US that are more advocates or maybe more flexible or more open, but I don't think it's necessarily because of, nationalities or whatsoever, but I think it's probably a lot deeper and sits within the organization, maybe perhaps in the UK, that they don't want to, maybe, I don't know, right? That they don't want to promote women as much. Right, but do you have as many, do you have women in do you have women that would fit the role or? Right.
That sounds like a tough one. Next question. Who's got a question?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. They were really inspiring. My question is specific for Daniela. You mentioned like us all using storytelling on social media. I think it's easy to share like what you've eaten or like your holiday on like Instagram or whatever else we use. But when it comes to sales and the work that you're doing, how would you recommend someone starts doing visual storytelling on like LinkedIn and more professional platforms?
Yeah, I think there's like different elements. So first of all, I always say start with something that you feel comfortable about, right? So for example, if you are in customer success, you might, have a lot of trainings. If you're in sales, you send out a lot of proposals. So focus on something that you're very much comfortable about, right? And then maybe perhaps use your existing ways of working and just enhance it. So for example, if you have a presentation, maybe your presentation at the moment is very much text-based, right? So make sure that you play around with that presentation, add more images, and really very much think about a story, right? And then you present it to your customers. So I think you don't need to immediately, create videos for Instagram and then also post on LinkedIn. So you can start step by step by step. And usually what we do is at Canva, we start first internally with our customers, right? Because you have that relationship and you feel confident, and you can also have trial and errors essentially, right? And then as you get better, you maybe perhaps go on to LinkedIn and start building out your personal brand, right? But one thing, are you in sales or? In recruitment, right, okay. So if you're in recruitment, again, that's another thing, right? Our recruitment agency, they use a lot of visual storytelling. So for example, when you want to attract new talent, do you just send them a very basic brief that says, hey, this is our role, you're going to have an interview on Tuesday with this and this hiring manager, or do you give them a bit of a story? So for example, what we do is we add small videos to our briefs, right? And it just says, hey, Daniela, you know, we're really excited to have you come and join us on Tuesday. This is your video. So it's a whole different experience. So it's just little things like that you can incorporate. So I don't think you need to change everything from one day to another, but use what you have and enhance it, right? And then step by step, you will see a massive impact, and you will also see how you can influence your audience, essentially.
Thank you. Just one more question at the back. Someone who's got a question at the back? I'm coming. Who's got a question? Yes.
Sorry, my name's Sam. Yes, some of the most inspiring people in my career have actually been women. Two of the best people I've ever learnt off have been women as well, and so is one manager who's up on stage. My question is, what is one of the barriers you come across as to why some women may not want to go into sales? And what, as a company, can we do to try and promote that or attract more women into business, in terms of like sales? Sorry.
I've got a bit of a controversial response to that one. What was stopping me is actually the mental load of having to be the flag bearer. You know, sometimes a lot of the time as women, we are expected to be the assertive people who get up on stage, do things like this, who are trying to be ambitious, get the promotions, be the loud one in the room. We're allowed to be quiet and not want to do all of that. So it's almost the underrepresentation of people who are okay to be, rather than always having to push and be better. It's all right if you are how you are. So for me, it's mental load. So you spoke about how you can, we make places better for pregnant women. A lot of the time, that question goes to pregnant women. You don't need the mental load of how to fix this right now, right? You got your own stuff going on right now. You don't need that. So it's mental load. So it's how do you take that off women? How do we not have to come up with the solutions ourselves a lot of the time?
I'd also quite like to add, I've worked in pretty much every single team I've been in have been all male, and that has been varied, but the best teams I've worked in have been the men that start to learn where maybe they are making it harder, and that can be the smallest thing in terms of very common one for me, perhaps people can relate, where I would say something in a team meeting, it wouldn't really get heard, and then a boy would repeat it and it would get heard. And that is something that has happened to most women I've asked, and it used to happen to me to an almost comical level, but not quite that funny. But it became a thing that did become a joke, and the boys in that team started to call out each other out, and we tried to make it jokey, and it became a genuine change because it was something that we could make lighthearted, but we were calling out a serious issue. And that could be something different on your team that you're on, or teams that you go into the future, but just ask the women that you work with, what would make this easier for you? And is there anything I can do? Because if they are having issues as a woman, it's probably going to be coming from a man, and it's probably going to come from a man that will listen to you more than they'll listen to her.
I think it also starts at the beginning. So having businesses offering internships and work experience to women, so that they can see that there's a place for them there. And then that once they're in, you can show to them that there is support and allyship for them there. And if your business or the business that you're not currently, or the business that you're working for isn't currently offering internships, work experience, or as much as you want to see, you need to be the voice for the women that aren't in there. So really push to your managers, to higher up, that's what you want to see as an employee. That's what will make you happier in your job. So I think if employers within businesses can demand more, for internships, work experience for women.
Great. Okay, can we have a round of applause for our speakers, please? That's a round of applause. Thank you. If you'd like to take a seat, thank you very much. Good job. Okay, honestly, that was hugely inspiring. It's not easy to get up here and share some of their experiences and challenges, and really touching actually some of the stories that you did share. I think it was extremely powerful. I imagine you will all agree that you've got some value out of it. So where do you go from here? I think, well, firstly, as Tia highlighted and Charlene, if you're looking to explore joining Funding Circle, go talk to the team. They're clearly here. Secondly, quite frankly, if you're in a company right now where you are not feeling supported, get out. Honestly, you don't need it. Like, we're all actually very privileged being in this type of room, and you're going to walk into another role. The team from Venetrix are here. The leading sales talent partner can help you with that. So just go and put yourself in a company that's going to support you with your goals. The other thing is that there's two other things that I want to mention or plug. The first I actually prepared for. The second is a surprise, so I'll save the second for a moment. The first thing is, how many of you got value from the speakers this evening? Put your hands up. Okay, 100% of the room. How many of you put your hand up if you had this bottled up and you could tap into what you've experienced this evening on a daily, weekly basis, would continue to get value? Put your hand up. Okay, about 20%. So I'm talking to the 20%. One of the things I just want to mention, and there's quite a few of our members in the room, I genuinely want to bottle up this experience that I call sales confidence, but ultimately it's how can you achieve more, be more, have more with your career. And this purpose of this evening's event has highlighted that there's lots of people that you can lean on to get inspiration and support. And actually, if you leave here and you haven't made 3 or 5 new connections, you've completely missed the trick. Because look at all this amazing energy that's around you. And even for the more introverted of you, just bump into someone at the drinks desk or on the way to the restroom, whatever it is, just connect with people, because that's what's going to support you. So how we do that as part of the Sales Confidence membership, if you're someone that's looking to achieve, right now you're looking for a transition or you're looking to get to the next level, our Learning and Development membership basically gives you access to knowledge, key people and connection to help you do that. And the reason why people join is essentially they just want to accelerate their careers and get more support, because the more people around you, the circles that you're in, will help you get to the next stage of your career a lot faster. And obviously some of the challenges that were highlighted from the speakers tonight, you can possibly limited because of your backgrounds, because of your race, because of who you are. But we want to support you to, no matter who you are, to accelerate your career. So we basically do that in 5 ways. 1, we connect you to mentors. So there was a lot of personal questions tonight. Like, we literally connect you to people that have been there, done that, and got the T-shirt. We also offer one-to-one coaching. So via our partners, My Sales Coach at the back, you can literally, when you become a member, get access to one-to-one coaching. A lot of the time, you've got managers, you've got leaders, they tell you to do something, you go back to your desk and go, fuck, I literally don't know where to start. But you don't say anything because you're worried about the bias, right? Or what's going to happen if you challenge or push back. It's scary in sales sometimes. Like, that is the reality of this environment. So having an outsider that can give you some space and say, look, what's going on, how you can get help is very valuable. And the other key thing is a bunch of peers. So we have women's circles where we have executive women leaders that have been there, done it, seen the challenges that you have, and you basically catch up on a weekly basis, have conversations about how you're progressing, the challenges you're facing, and how you can get help and progress. And then we also have weekly masterclasses and private events like this that you can get access to. And so one of the examples is Ali Mansour Cook. She's a senior leader at Zendesk. She's also worked at multiple hypergrowth companies, and she will host one of those circles, and you can participate in that on a weekly basis. And we've got the leading coaches and sales leaders that you've got access to. And the final part is obviously the investment. So there's different levels for different investment levels. Now, a lot of you'll get an email about this. Most of your companies will have some form of personal development. And most of the time I find that you're not using it, which is just crazy. So the first question is, ask your company, are they willing to invest in your personal development? If not, get another company. because that's weird. If they are, then get on board. But if you're sitting there going, well, actually, I'm going to earn money by improving myself because we're in sales, then you can join, and you can join the link this evening. And if you decide to join tonight, you'll get an email where our next dinner on next Wednesday at the Dorchester. We do things to the top 5-star standard. You get access to a coaching call with me. You'll get coaching calls with my sales coach, and you can join this evening. So that was plug one. If you're interested, just take a photo and you'll get all the information, so you can scan the code. So I'll give you a second to do that. And then the next thought really is, I honestly have been blown away by the speakers this evening. I've done this for 5 years, and it's amazed me, like some of the age ranges here getting up on this stage. And I would say to yourselves, like, set a goal of doing some form of public speaking and putting yourself out there. Maybe that's just starting at your school, right? And going back there and being brave to do that, because you will make a difference, because I believe these speakers tonight have genuinely made a difference. And actually, this is the second plug that I had no plans to do, but I've decided to do. So I actually have an 8-year-old daughter, Annabelle, and I didn't realize this, but I just reflected on this this evening. Obviously, she's my world. I've also got 2 older sons, Harry and Jack. Harry's 12, Jack's 10, and Annabelle's 8. Now, over the last few months, I don't know what it is, but literally Annabelle's been spending all the time in my office, and she set up her own office. So she also hired her brother Jack, then fired him. So she's already made a hire and got rid of him. And she's actually set her own business up on Shopify. And it's not ready, but she has a site. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to plug it for her. So her website, I have not planned this. Okay. So, like, you can see it's not finished. So, like, there is, if nothing more, you don't join up to the membership. What will mean more to me is even if you just stuck your email address, because she will get a bunch of notifications in there, and that would mean the world for me. So that was just a surprise plug. I've been inspired by the speakers. There you go, Glamorous Glow. You saw it here first. Annabelle, my daughter. Go check it out. All right. Okay, that is a wrap. Thank you very much for showing up tonight. Big round of applause to Funding Circle and everyone that supports us. Have a good evening. Cheers.